Greetings, friends and foes, and welcome along to episode 45 of Keep Your Friends Close and Your Animes Closer with me, as always, your anime prophet, Joel.
And me, as always, your anime devout worshipper, Robert.
I'm your anime sheep, Curtis.
See, I thought somebody would have gone like apostle or
yeah, I was
disciple.
like, I needed the entry level though, as the anime noob. I needed entry into this thing.
Street urchin. We don't get profits nowadays, so I always
not so much. Well, you do, but they're all on paid TV, aren't they? Very expensive.
They sold out,
right? Yeah.
Very expensive clothing. And
wonder if you could be a Twitch prophet, just
and make some Twitch profit.
Yeah. This is an anime podcast where we watch a couple episodes of anime and then we talk about it. This week on the podcast, we watched episodes 4, 5, and 6 of Housekei no Kuni, or Land of the Lustrous. And wouldn't you know it, I got some predictions right.
Yeah, you did. I knew he'd be smug about that. As soon as it came up, I was like, shit.
Yeah.
You got that right.
Yeah, I was watching it and I was like, Joel's going to be happy.
So why don't we figure out which ones I did get right now in Housekei no Kuni Abridged. If you want to skip ahead, then you can skip to 1106. Future Joel at it again, accurate predictions and all that. Housekei no Kuni Abridged.
Episode 4, title.
Soul, flesh, bone.
Sensei has a dream about being surrounded and bowed to by the Lunarians. Then endless waters. He learns of the attacks and Foss's situation upon waking up. He's been meditating for an entire day. Foss speaks to the slug, whom we learn is the ruler of all of the Admirabilis. She's named Ventricosus, and their people are waterborne creatures. We'll learn more about them later. She was originally from these coasts, apparently, but she was taken, along with all of her people, by the Lunarians, who wanted their magnificent shells. On the moon, they were fed sweet waters and such, and they grew gigantic and dumb. She sees the sensei and thinks he's a bit of a hunk and a hot guy, and she starts hitting on him, trying to kiss him and eat him as well. But then she realises he's not made of gemstone, so she can't devour him.
And he's like, I sense that this one wants friendship.
Yeah. Foss asks Sensei if Cinnabar could do some better job than he's currently doing, and he says, well, I understand that you want a better life for him, and I do too. I regret that this has to be the situation, but unfortunately I'm yet to solve the problem. Maybe you can come up with something for him.
Also, his job is self-inflicted.
Yeah. Foss laments that maybe he'll never be able to fulfill his promise to Cinnabar to find him a better job. Ventricosus, however, says that there are other gem people where she comes from, down in the bottom of the ocean. So maybe the answer's there. Euclase asks Rutil if he can apply the resin that he needs, the one that they have to put on so that the salt water doesn't destroy their powder when they go into the water. Is the powder like their skin?
Yeah. You see when...
And that's why they don't always look like gems.
Yeah.
But when they break open, they do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because later on, Foss says, yeah, if I go into the water, all of my powder will wash off and I'll look absolutely horrendous.
Right, I see. Yeah, imagine that, if you took a bath and your skin came off.
Yeah, but it's not skin, it's makeup.
Yeah.
They're all just trying to emulate what Sensei looks like.
Right, I see. Alright, so Rutil can't find that resin though. It's gone missing. And then Red Beryl, who's the fashionista one, she comes running in. She can't find the new uniform she's been working on either. That's because Foss has borrowed them both. He's about to walk out into the ocean with Ventricosus. He's caught, however, before he gets the chance, and he gets sent to Sensei, who forbids the excursion into the ocean. You shall not pass. Ventricosus gets weak around this time from lack of food. She can't survive on the land food. She's used to seaweed and things. And then the two of them discuss death and what it means for mortal things to die when the gem people can't die and live on forever. Ventricosus really longs for home and convinces Foss to disobey the orders and walk out into the ocean and take her home. They stroll out into the sea. Ventricosus changes form from the slug form that she is to a more humanoid form with flowing petticoat-like frills and bouncing jugs, which by her own words are her most prized and precious parts. She tells us the story of the humans. They survived the first 5 planet strikes, but on the 6th and final one, they took to the sea, splitting into the Spirit, which became the Lunarians, the Flesh, which became the Admirabilis, and the Bone, which became the Gem People. Now the Spirit wanders the Earth, trying to reunite the 3 of them and become human again. Maybe. She says this is all apocryphal stories that have been passed down through our people, so it might not have happened exactly like that. Deer at this point notices that Foss is missing. And then Ventricosus springs a trap, presenting Foss as a gift to the Lunarians in exchange for her captured brother, Aculatius. Foss is shattered by arrows and spears and things. Smashed into pieces. Episode 5, title:
Return.
The gems look for Foss everywhere. Foss, meanwhile, is captured by the Lunarians in a big net. Morga sees Foss's tracks walking out into the sea, and they realise what's happened. The Lunarians renege on their deal, and they want more from more of the Gem People in return of V's brother. She says that she can't do that for you. None of the others are stupid enough to fall for it. And Foss is like, oh. So they burn her arm off with big long cattle prod-like things. Her yelps and searing flesh wake her enormous brother from his gargantuan shell. The Lunarians try and get him under control with like massive branding iron things and scorching him. And then makes him angry. He rocks the cloud, the inky cloud that he's sitting on, and he falls into the ocean. The saltwater shrinks him back to his regular self, and then he strikes out with his many tentacles, defeating the Lunarians. He, in doing so, shatters Foss's face off. Foss, however, forgives her for the trap once that he knows her reasons for doing it, to save her family from the moon. Also, this is my 300th birthday today. What a lovely birthday.
Got some context for how old they are.
Yeah. And Foss is the youngest as well. They escape into the ocean, snapping off some of the barbs from the ginormous shell on the way down. The gems head out to try and find Foss in the ocean, but Foss meanwhile washes up on the shore by Cinnabar, apologising to him for failing thus far and finding him a better job. Sensei yells at Foss, but he calls off the production of the encyclopedia, saying that it's obviously too dangerous for you. Rutiel fixes him up, except for his missing legs, which were left in the ocean. She has to substitute in the agate, which is a mineral found in the shell barbs that he came back with. Agate is a hardness 7, so it's actually an upgrade if it takes hold. They have to wait and see if the inclusions take a hold and actually make the legs work like regular legs. So he ends up getting black and white striped candy cane legs, which at first don't move, they're just like prosthetics. And then they do. And they do. Boy, do they move. No physio rehab for me. Instantly starts running like the wind, much faster than he was ever able to run before. Episode 6, title:
First battle.
Yellow Diamond runs from the Lunarians, demonstrating super speed. Their partner, Zircon, gets hit, severing their head off with one of the attacks, and then Rutiel manages to fix him up. Yellow mentions that he's the oldest at 3,597 years old, but only because he can run faster than anyone else, for now. He has, however, lost 4 partners to the moon: Green Diamond, Ruby, Sapphire, and Pink Topaz. Foss now is so fast with the new legs that he can't even stop where he wants to. They think that the inclusions are finally exerting their true power that they couldn't before due to the fragility of his body. Foss is allowed to become Lookout now with his new talent, but he still can't handle even the lightest blade. Sensei asks, "Why are you so determined to fight?" And he says, "Because I love you and I want to help." And this shocks and stuns everyone in the room for some reason. Then he tries to remember what happened at sea, but as we learnt before, as you lose some of your gemstone, as you get anything chipped away, you lose some of your memories as well. Now that he's lost basically a third of his body in both legs, he's lost a lot of his memories as well. All he can remember is that the sea was big and wide, and there was something about humans. As he mentions humans, there's a look of shock and fright on Sensei's face, who relaxes a bit once it becomes clear that Foss can't remember anything other than the word human. Foss meets Amethysts 84 and 33, who are twin crystals who can come into forceful contact with each other without breaking. They speak in unison like twins from a horror film.
Or just anime.
Or just anime in general, yeah. And then they all go on lookout duty together, and it proves to be much more boring than Foss would imagine it was. The same again the next day, and then the next day. But late on the third day, however, the Lunarians finally attack. The twins attack back, demonstrating a mastery with swords and destroying all of the Lunarians. Except that out of those segmented holes, those lotus holes, come a big Venus flytrap looking thing, and it captures them, shattering them into little pieces.
It's made out of sapphire by the look of it as well.
Oh, yeah, true. I didn't pick up on that.
There's blue needle barbs.
Yes. The bot diamond runs in from nowhere, destroying it, and Sensei arrives on the scene, dismissing the ink cloud with like, what would you say he does? Like it's almost like he conjures like little bits of gem around himself, and then flicks them at the cloud, and it disperses it.
Yeah.
He
casts magic missile.
Yeah, effectively. Yeah. Bot turns angrily to Foss, brandishing his sword and demanding that he explains himself.
Okay, before I start to brag, initial thoughts and feelings.
Actually, before that, I'm going to rock your world.
Fuck.
Spotlight on Amethyst. Amethyst is not just the birth name of Iggy Azalea. No, it's actually the name for a violet-coloured variety of quartz. The name actually comes from Greek for not drunk, because it was following the belief that the stone would protect its owner from inebriation.
Nice.
So I don't know how that's not dispersed, like, immediately.
Yeah.
Like a rumour like that, surely you've got it on you and then you get pissed and you're like, well, that didn't work. How do you then like continue that?
It's because some guy who was an ancient Greek equivalent of like a pool hustler
right.
was like, selling people amethyst. He would drink, just like doing the whole thing where like, you pouring it just down the side of your face.
It turns profile and pours it onto his shoulder.
And he's like, look, I'm drinking heaps and I'm not drunk at all.
Or
and he sold
he's switching drinks with them so that they think they're drinking alcohol when they're not. And they're
water.
like, I'm not getting pissed, this is amazing. But also, what's the point of drinking alcohol if you're not wanting to get pissed?
Because it was healthier than drinking water back in those days.
It was actually, yeah. Good point. Amethyst is known for its twinning in 3 distinct ways, known as laws. The Brazil law, the Dauphine law, and appropriately the Japan law. Don't ask me anything about those because I looked into it and it's very difficult to understand what any of it means.
The Brazil law is hot.
It's very hot, yeah. It's right down the middle, just a nice little right down. All I could find is that when a crystal is forming, if there's like an inclusion, if there's like a little, what would you call it, like a deformity or whatever in the middle, sometimes they will split off and other crystals just keep forming around it. Whereas amethyst will become like a mirror image of itself, which is why these guys have different fringes, mirror image fringes. They were considered until the 18th century when they found huge deposits of them in Brazil that it was one of the most precious minerals on Earth, competing with diamond, in fact. Now you know more about amethyst.
Now I do. What's its hardness?
7.
7. My world has been successfully rocked. Did you enjoy these episodes?
I did,
yeah.
Back on board?
Was I not on the first 3?
You were lukewarm.
Yeah, I enjoyed these episodes more.
That's a start.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts?
I really enjoyed it. I was going to watch a 4th episode and then realise that I'm doing this for a podcast.
Right.
And so I couldn't. Yeah, I mean, I was pretty hooked. So let's break it on down. Oh, also, Euclase is 2,173.
Yeah.
And she points out that in all her years, the Lunarians usually only attack once every 3 sunny days.
And yet they've been
2
attacking quite often.
Yeah, more increasing for some reason.
I was actually thinking about that watching it. They've lived for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
How many days does an episode cover? Like, we don't know if it's been weeks or months or years.
They mentioned
going into winter.
Oh, right.
They mentioned that there were 2 in one day, though.
Oh, they mentioned
they
that.
mentioned that.
We did see 2 in one day. Before it was the second of which was the delivery of the huge shell.
Yeah.
Right.
Delivery of Ventricus or whatever her name was.
Right.
So we saw those 2 happen in a day. But other than that, I get what you're saying. They're not like, it's not been specified explicitly that we're seeing every single day.
Yeah, I feel like things could be months.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not sure.
Time is weird when you're immortal.
Yeah.
What does the births actually mean, do you reckon? What does it mean that she's 300 years old? She was
I
found then?
Because they've got friggin' midichlorians that keep them alive, so I have no idea. We don't even know what Sensei's deal is, because he's organic.
Yeah.
and he's even older than all the gems. So
Is he? Has that been stated that he's older than all of them?
I think he's older than all of them because
So he's like 3,600
yeah,
at least.
at least.
I was wondering if it meant that they had like arrived at this particular settlement at that time, like they were wandering aimlessly, and then they arrived here and became part of this settlement 300 years ago.
No, I think if anything, it would be that Sensei. I think Sensei is like the dad.
Do you think he's making them?
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah.
That's my read on it.
Do you reckon it's anything to do, like he keeps patting them on the top of the head? Is that just like a fatherly thing to
That's
do?
a Japanese thing. That's an anime thing. It's a sign of affection in Japan.
I don't know if
It's demeaning in the West, but in Japan it's like very affectionate.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's really, really offensive in Thailand as well to touch somebody's head.
Ah.
Yeah. Alright, so episode 4 then. Ventricose means swollen belly. So I wondered if she was like pregnant or something when I heard the name, but
I was supposed to bring it up last episode, but Foss basically got vored, like straight up just got swallowed, and was talking about how warm and sticky it was. It was a very graphic vor scene.
Yeah, and she's like, "Why did you eat me?" And she's like, "Oh, you looked tasty. You look like the tastiest color or something."
Exactly.
And then she tries to do the same to the sensei. She like lands on top of his head and she's like, "Oh, what a hunk!" And then her first instinct is to bite him, and then she's like,
Nothing works.
I eat you?"
Yeah.
Is that because she's flesh, so she's hungry, like more basic?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Because we never see them eat or drink.
They don't obviously. No, they've mentioned that they're solar powered.
Yeah.
Which is why they go to sleep at night, because there's less sun.
I would have liked it if there was someone who we have seen drink, so that they could have been like drinking, and Amethyst could be like, "Hey, no time for drinking," just like as a little callback to them being like not drunken.
Right.
If like, I'd like to see like little things that call back to more of what their gems actually are for, because you see that in a few of them, especially in Cinnabar, obviously. But they could go a little further with it. I think we talked a little bit about it last time about the body shapes they could do a little more with, but also just like it's not quite explored as much as I was. In the first 3 episodes, it's kind of set up like it was going to explore that a lot, but they've kind of gotten a little bit generic. These 3, I think.
Yeah.
It's harder to sell them all.
Well, they're trying to. I mean, with Amethyst in particular, that is like an anime trope that they're ticking the box of. Do you know what I mean? Having twins is a recurring thing. Anyways, they have butts.
Yep.
That was weird. They don't have like genitalia, but they've got butts, like a clear defined butt cheek.
Yeah, I did see that, and I thought it was strange. But then I thought, well, no, we don't see that they've got butt holes, and the butts are like very useful for having a lot of muscle there, like the gluteus maximus is.
But there's no muscle because they're solid rock.
Yeah, but they move, so we've got to assume that they've got some sort of muscular system, right? That obviously we don't understand.
I just thought it was weird that there was a butt crack.
They've got very like what? How else would it be that they've just got no butt?
Just like a round, just a round butt shape.
But their legs
crack.
are separate and they move separately, so they've still got to have some sort of defining at the top as to
maybe a crease instead of an actual like hard defined crack.
Yeah, because we do see.
Because they don't need the padding.
You see Euclase get naked, and that's where we see the butt crack. But I mean, it was obvious they had butts. They show their butts all the time, just clothed.
Yeah, but it was just the butt crack that I was upset by. All right, we'll move past it. It was a little tiny thing.
Euclase in that same scene says that he's fragile. He's more fragile than a lot of them, which is odd because he's a 7.5, which is at least like halfway.
Maybe his toughness is.
We've now found. Hey, I got one of my predictions right, albeit like a kind of a gimme. We've now been introduced to almost all of them. There's only 2 that we haven't met, if they're consistent with their numbers at least. And 7.5 is about halfway. There's about half of the town, if you want to call it that, is even more fragile than Euclase. So it would be weird for him to think that he is one of the fragile ones. I don't know.
Don't know either.
Mammary glands on an invertebrate. What do we think about
that? I don't think that they were actually mammary glands. I just think that they were vestigial boobs from when they were humans.
One of the interesting things about that is that she eats through her ass.
Yeah.
She gets her tentacles. She gets her tentacles and lands on top of like a seaweed thing.
And continues to talk.
And she continues to talk while she's consuming it up her butt. And that's actually appropriate and accurate to how jellyfish eat. They are I forget the name for it now, but they they don't have an entire digestive tract the way that we do. They've got a mouth and an anus that are the same hole. They take the food in, they digest it a bit, and then they spit it back out the same hole. And so it would be interesting that she has a human... she's like a mermaid, but with a jellyfish instead of a regular fish.
Yeah.
She's got the mouth and the digestive system of a jellyfish underneath, and then she's got like the top half that's human. So not only when the humans went to the ocean to avoid the catastrophes on land, not only did they like evolve into... they must have mated with jellyfish or something as well.
Because that's how it works.
They've spliced their DNA with jellyfish and got half and half.
Well... Okay, so really quickly, I do think that they're vestigial because the frilly kind of dress tendrils that she has, she's got like nipple coverings essentially.
Yeah.
But those are a part of her body.
Yeah,
they're not like clothing. So
there was such a demand for modesty in the previous humans that it was sexually selected again.
Yeah.
Sexually selected for
to have
to
no
the
nipples.
point where they evolved just like modesty pouches over their nipples. And why is her brother a different colour with different shapes and different tentacles?
Because it's an anime.
Yeah.
And or sexual dimorphism.
True.
Because she is actually a female and he is a male.
The first female we've seen, I believe.
Yes.
First definitive female.
What else did I have? They talked about shells as being their garments, which I thought was a weird little note, but I don't actually have anything to add.
I thought that was interesting that the Lunarians, if they are trying to reconnect all three of them or recombine, and that's why they're kidnapping the ones from the moon and the gem people. If the ones from the water already have shells on, which are minerals, is that not a part of it?
They probably need the midichlorians from the gems.
Bits, true. But they've already got some of the gem people and some of the water people. So why have they not been successful?
Maybe they have. We just don't see them. Why would they need to go out and continue to hunt if they're a human on the moon?
Ah, right. Yeah, maybe.
On one of the moons.
Living on the moon.
Speaking of souls, did I make your impression about there being souls and being important? The wording of that prophecy.
Not sure what you're talking about.
I knew it. The way that it was worded.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Meant that there would be something to do with souls, which is just a little notch on my belt, which I felt super happy about. And then moving into the following episode when the Lunarians show up and Ventricle does Foss in. We get to see the Lunarians can talk. They're not just like weird automata.
We never see them talk.
Well, we don't understand them. Yeah.
We see her answering one of them.
Yeah.
We don't hear them speaking words, so we don't know if they're like telepathic or something.
True. Yeah. But it means that they're capable of communication, which is interesting to know. And I liked the design of Ventricule's brother. That was good.
Yeah, he was cool. I wish he'd kept a little bit more of his appearance when he was the full grown thing on the, because he didn't look similar enough for my taste.
What about the snail lady though? She was a snail and then a little tiny thing.
But I mean, when she was her slug form, she did have the similar sort of tentacly, what they call them.
She looked like she evolved as if she were a Pokemon.
Yes, where it's just enough to be like, okay, I can see the resemblance. But then when she becomes a humanoid form, it's like, where is the resemblance gone now?
Yeah.
Bit of a shame.
Who's that? Sorry.
Both of the slug peoples that we see, the pink ventriculosis and her brother Acleosiosis,
right?
which means spiny or barbed.
Right? How does it?
We just don't see enough of their like similarities between their human form and their like snail form.
Okay,
I think.
Yeah.
Because when he's a snail, he's got those like frills. He's got loads of eyes and he's got those frilly bits, and he's got a very spirally, pointy shell.
Right. Yeah, I don't actually remember his shell form. I remember seeing something cute. He was quite cute at one stage. He even says
Foss comes
so cute.
Yeah. Foss finds.
I found that contrast going from that cute to I saw his human form or humanoid form. And he looked evil.
Yeah, he did a bit.
And that was total contrast to his cute form. I don't know.
I feel like we need the gem people's name, like the name for all of them, because we've got the Lunarians and the one that I can never remember, Admirabilis, but they never give a name to like the gem people, what they like human race.
We'll just call them gems.
To gem people, I guess.
Yeah.
It it was a real minor thing, real picky, but it really bothered me that she's carrying her around in like a little wooden bowl, and then she walks into the ocean and the wooden bowl sinks.
She's holding on to
what's it made of? Ebony. Like it's not.
Is it wood?
It's a little wooden bowl, yeah.
Okay.
I think.
Fair enough. It might not be wood.
Maybe it's not. It
might be terracotta. Yeah. But the reason that they're carrying the snail around in the bowl is so that she doesn't eat them.
She doesn't eat them. Yeah. She doesn't devour them when she touches her.
Yeah.
But then when she turns into a humanoid form, she like gives her a hug, and Foss says, "Oh, you don't always have to devour me then," or something.
Yeah.
And she's like, just kind of hand waves it. It felt if that part felt to me like the writers were like, oh, let's just say it. I can't be bothered having them
done.
separate
Over now.
the whole time. Yeah.
Done.
She can control it. She doesn't have to eat them. I found it really poignant that they are all afraid of Sensei. When he gets angry, they are all like tangibly scared of him.
Yeah. Well, because he can if he yells, they all shatter.
Yeah, but like that means that he's got volatile anger and he can't control it.
That was an interesting moment because he loses it when she says humans. That she's heard something about humans.
He even like breaks the table. He slams his hand down on the table. He's like, "What do you mean? What do you mean humans?" And
he was like, I don't know what he was prepared to do in that stage. Like, was he going to like silence her or like if she could remember everything?
What would have happened if he? Yeah, because then he calms down when she's like, "I don't remember anything else." It's like, okay.
And then they sort of dismiss it as him just being
frustrated. Yeah.
And what do you think that meant? Because he's human, you reckon?
It's hard to say. I feel like he is with big quotation marks, like because there's obviously something more to him because he's a millennial.
Do you reckon he's
Centurion?
There's almost like 4 different races sort of going on in this show. Like he is different.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, is he a 4th evolved form? That it was like the humans actually stuck around, and then there was those other 3 as well that evolved from them. Yeah, 4 different species of them, and he's like trying to keep it secret or something, or he thinks he's the last one of his kind.
No, I have no idea.
Did you read it as I read it that he is like scared of the truth coming out, or did you read it that he was like anxious to know what's happened to the rest of the humans?
I didn't think you didn't. I read it as him being anxious because he obviously hasn't told them about the humans for whatever reason, and I thought he was like, "What? Like you? Where did you hear that? Like what is going on with that?" And then no.
He just gives up on it a little too easy for... That's why I thought he was like trying to keep it secret.
Yeah, I read it as him being threatened.
Yeah, because I the first watch through, I sort of read it the way that you did with like, tell me about the humans. What did you hear? And then give up. But then I watched it again and I was like, no. As soon as she says I don't remember anymore, he doesn't like press her for anything. He doesn't like try and get any other little bit of information from her like he would if he was anxious for information. He just lets it go immediately and seems to calm down. So I don't know, but I do think it was interesting that he's not like a fatherly figure that we think of him as. He's clearly a dangerous guy, and they are scared of him.
God,
he can't control his anger, and he's happy to injure them. And
that was an interesting scene when she's recovering on the table. They're trying to put her back together, and he shows up, and they all run away from her. And I can't remember. Does he yell at?
He yells at you insolent fool, and he yells loud enough to shatter her arms off and stuff, and blasts her off the table. But
then he catches
her immediately.
And I don't know.
But but the interesting part about that scene to me was the fact that Rutil, the doctor, Jade tells her, "You need to run away as well," and she's like, "No, I'm busy trying to fix up Foss." And she's like, if you get shattered, who's going to put you back together?
Yeah.
And so that means that Sensei he's so volatile and so angry, he's obviously such an angry person that he would happily just shatter even the doctor without thinking about the consequences of it. He can't control it, which is...
He needs to meditate more.
Yeah, he needs to meditate more, even though he does so for entire days at a time, it seems.
Yeah.
Oh, I also found it funny in this episode when she does get her prosthetics, that we've only discussed 4 series as the main body of this show, and in 2 of those series it's been a double amputee with prosthetic limbs.
Wait, what?
In Violet Evergarden she had no arms and had prosthetics, and in this she's got no legs with prosthetics. This is the second series where the protagonist has got...
Is that an anime thing?
I don't think so. But she gets a new gem. She doesn't actually fuse with like another one like I thought that she might. I thought that she might get Heliodors maybe. But she does get new bits, and that's how she gets upgraded, and now she can run super quick.
So they said that was about a third of her body.
Yeah.
Your legs, supposedly. The the gems hold the memories throughout her body.
Yeah.
So she lost
a third of her memory. She couldn't remember Jade.
But does she gain someone else's memory from this new gem?
I thought that they were going to do that.
Yeah.
But clearly a gate that formed inside the shell of the man didn't have any inclusions in them. The inclusions or the midichlorians are the things that hold the memories.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And so not all minerals are gem people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Some minerals are just minerals. Some rocks. If they've got those like inclusions, we're thinking that that's what gives them consciousness. Then I guess, and the ability to move and things and heal.
That. Yep.
I guess that like the fact that the inclusions are the ones that allow them to heal has been expressly stated, but all the other stuff we're kind of just
trying to infer from knowledge. I like that they made her run quick, but also when she's running around and she gets caught by Yellow Diamond, who was a cool character. I'm on board with that character. When she demands to get a sword and Sensei's like, give her the weakest sword that you have, the lightest sword you have, she can't hold it up. Surely she just wouldn't be able to hold the sword up because she can't get stronger. I thought that they kind of set that up as...
They can't train it. They can't expand their muscles or something.
But then they do away with that.
I think it'll be... This is... maybe I'll come back to it in predictions.
We've been making predictions all over the shop at this point.
It's just that I think that she will shadow her arms off and get better arms.
Heliodor's arms.
Yeah. It's going to go into it. Nah, maybe more a gate or maybe a different mineral as well, and then she'll just like get a patchwork. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Yellow Diamond thing, running really fast, I was really hopeful that I would look into it and find that Yellow Diamond is like a super fast growing crystal or something.
Yeah.
Like it grows like bamboo does, I think, and just like create incredible speeds. But it doesn't. It's just like it's considered a lesser form of a diamond.
Is it lighter?
Not particularly. So that was another thing where I was like, you couldn't. I mean, surely some crystal form at faster rates than others. You should have had that as the crystal. Yeah. It was one of those things. And also, when we met Dyer in her episode, we met Dyer and Bort. Didn't she say that they were the only diamonds?
No, I don't think she did.
Didn't she?
I
must have just inferred that wrongly. Because I was sure that they were the only two, and then we've met Yellow Diamond and heard about Green Diamond as well. And I was like, okay, so we've got a lot of diamonds in this.
Had a lot of diamonds, Green Diamond's gone.
True.
I feel like overall they've done a good job at, like, you've been explaining the different sort of characteristics of those gems. I think they've done a pretty good job. But just that
I was hoping that Yellow Diamond...
They could have done more.
Yeah.
They could have done more, though. I was being a bit facetious. But it always is a tinge frustrating when you see a writer has put a lot of effort into something and then they've missed one thing. It's like, it was almost perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Almost would have jerked you off until I died. But... now I'm just disappointed.
And that's the writer's issue.
Yeah, that's their fault.
Yeah.
They're not working on a weekly schedule, trying to get out a chapter a week, making do with what they can on the first page of Wikipedia.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Episode 6, anything to say about that one?
I have no... I like the amethysts. So the reason that Foss gets paired up with them is because supposedly they're very good at sword fighting, and maybe Foss can learn something from them. Also, because they're so in sync, there's like less of a chance that she'll get hurt or something. I don't know. I enjoyed them. They tried to include Foss in their weird shenanigans, and then they try and teach her some sword swinging, or they're about to, and then the Lunarians show up. And then what I wanted to say, apart from because we don't really see that much else happen in that episode, I don't know why Bort is so angry with Foss when she shows up. Did you guys find that really strange? Where she's like, explain yourself!
I not particularly strange, because we've seen, it's been set up that Bort is not respectful of Foss. She doesn't... Yeah. He doesn't like him at all. And whenever anybody's like, hey, have you seen Foss? He's gone missing. He's like, oh, again. What a liability. Yeah. He sees him as a liability. So I think it's more that he was there when something happened and he's like, what the hell were you doing? Why weren't you helping them? Right.
See,
why weren't you joining the fight to try and assist them?
I wasn't sure. That was my first read on it, but then I was like, it kind of sounded as though he was blaming Foss for them being taken. Maybe he was just angry that they got taken and not Foss. Like, it should have been him to go.
I think that's probably it.
Although they should be... Well, they're going to have to fish them out of the sea, but they should be still fine amethysts.
Yeah, because they got smashed up into pieces. But
that was pretty graphic. I mean, not graphic, but
chopped their heads off and shit in that.
They were calm for about 2 seconds and they started screaming because it hurts.
That was another thing. I was like, oh, I didn't realize these guys feel pain yet.
Well,
because
they had the knock on the knee,
yeah,
and that was uncomfortable.
But anytime that we see them getting their arms shattered off and stuff, they're not like screaming in pain. But I guess maybe they don't want to terrorize the people watching.
I guess it's the compression and like the vibration that's the painful thing, not actually the... Yeah.
I thought it was a bit of a missed opportunity to have Obsidian be the Master Swordsman.
But she's making the swords out of obsidian.
Yeah.
Although, I recently found out that you can't forge obsidian.
You can't forge it, no.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to work with. But you can also not dull it. Anytime it ever breaks, it just gets sharper. Like it's a crazy mineral, really worth looking into.
Okay, so I was like, I threw out my weekend plans because I thought that I couldn't forge all the obsidian that I bought, but now I find out that technically you can. It's just very, very hard, but also it just makes the best ever swords. So I mean, I have to get my guy back in, and get the forge back on.
What was the thing about the reaction to Foss saying that he loves Sensei?
Oh yeah, that was the other thing in episode 6.
Why are you so determined to fight even though you're a piece of shit? He's like, because I love you.
Yellow's reaction was also strange, because Yellow was like, ha ha ha, you don't get it. The Lunarians also love Sensei, that's why they're so keen on him, which is like calling back to the weird dream that he had.
Interesting. I thought that she was talking about the ones, the others of their clan that had been captured, the ones that were now on the moon. They also loved him, but it wasn't enough to save them. I read that line as that. Because she just said they love him on the moon. And I thought she was talking about Green Diamond and Ruby and Sapphire, the ones that have been taken.
I don't know, it was a fucked up
I read that totally different. I read that as Foss, how are we saying her name? Foss saying something completely embarrassing. Supposedly they're all laughing at her, and then Yellow Diamond kind of being like sticking up for her a bit, trying to make her not feel embarrassed or
like,
shameful.
Hey, everybody loves Sensei, it's okay.
We all love him.
It's alright.
That's weird that we got 3 different reads from that one line.
Yeah.
Sensei's just such a strange character, and we know so little about him, but he has such an impact on the story that it's...
I guess the supposedly bone, right? So and so they're not supposed to have feelings maybe for each other for things, but Foss seems to, I don't know.
They all seem to have, maybe she's more... Well, I did mention that in her voice acting, that she's very animated in how she's presented, and everybody else is muted by comparison to varying degrees.
Right.
Do you reckon it would be odd that she has such an attachment to Cinnabar? Did they not form relationships, do you don't think?
I don't think so, not by the look of it. They form partnerships.
Yeah, but only for mutual benefit. Doesn't seem like 2 cops would go out on the beat together, sort of thing, that sort of partnership, rather than.
I just every time that I didn't commit to the bit, and now it's gone. So
it's something to do with beating together.
No. It's just whenever I hear the word cop, it's like, oh, Johnny out on the street, gonna catch those Lunarians. They're at it again. What have we got? Double homicide. Twins. My God.
Those monsters. I don't know if none of them seem to have shown to have romantic relationships. No. I was wondering if Foss and Cinnabar are going that way.
Maybe it's because they're soft.
yeah. Not hard, mate. Not hard enough. Not tough.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm really enjoying the show.
Can I ask why? Why are you enjoying it?
I was about to. Yeah, for sure. Obviously, there's not as much for us to kind of pull apart as Usuna. I've seen people taking a read on this as a commentary on gender, but the only comment that I can see there being so far, we're only halfway through, is that it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It's irrelevant, which is a good message, but I again, when I say I've seen people talking about it, I've tried to steer clear of the discussion as much as possible, because you always find spoilers. It's just fucking inevitable. It's the same with you can't look up cosplay of anything, because you'll see a spoiler, you go, fuck, that's okay, well shit.
I do continually find myself wondering what the trans community thinks of this show.
They love it. They absolutely love it. Yeah.
It could have gone.
Well, okay, that's a generalization. Sure. I've seen a lot of trans people who love it online. Yeah.
I was wondering if they would have been that's not a good representation of ours and blah blah blah.
Yeah. I think
it's supposed to be transgender.
No, it's
just sort of agendered.
Oh yeah.
As I read their bodies as being agendered, but you guys are like definitely feminine. They are more feminine than masculine.
They've all got female voice actors. And,
True.
Typically feminine traits and things, but
flowing locks of hair.
But that's yeah, I don't know, not the podcast.
I mean, it could be because we're not exactly talking about the nature of growing up anymore. That's being done. I don't know. Maybe next episode, when we find out a little bit more about Sensei and what his genitals are up to, we'll have more to talk about.
Yeah. What are you guys thinking then? Predictions for next?
I was gonna just final thoughts on why I am enjoying the show, and maybe you're welcome to disagree with me. I think I'm enjoying the character designs, so the overall aesthetics of the show, and when it comes down to like the story presentation, I think the pace is really good. I know that it's only 12 episodes, but they're not really mucking around on anything. Apart from episode 2 was kind of a bit slow by comparison, but they're moving through every story point at a pace that I'm enjoying, and the world is weird and interesting enough with enough for you to kind of think about to keep me interested. Right, if that makes sense. You know, like they're talking about the Lunarians possibly being the spirit of humans, and even if that is just an apocryphal story, it's still an interesting concept. Like, I'm sure that there's more to the Lunarians, even if they are still like just pure evil. I'm sure that there's more to how they got on the moon.
There's more of a mystery. There's enough of a mystery to keep you going. Okay, what was the history of this world? How is it? Because we've now heard 2 stories that are very similar but not exactly identical. And like, what's the actual truth behind it? And when are we going to see the Lunarians side of it?
Episode 12.
You reckon?
They just like bum 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 bum.
You just pop in and just give a little story.
You're off to Earth today, son. I am, Dad. Don't die. We're really light and we tend to die a lot when we go
to die. Make sure that you secure those.
Your mum needs some new earrings. If we don't get them, then we'll lose the house.
It's going to turn out that they're trying to do it like they're doing a good thing for them. Like the Lunarians know that there's another comet coming and they'll all be wiped out or something.
So they're trying to save them.
No, they're trying to save them, take them to the moon where they'll be safe.
They're just really bad. It's really socially awkward.
Well, I mean, it's like it's a sanctuary situation, but told from the Rhino's perspective. Like the Rangers are coming in and like tranquilizing them to take them to a place where they'll be safe.
Yeah, man.
And they're actually destroying them and stuff.
Totally bad.
Accidentally or whatever. Who knows? I predict that it's going to be the next episodes in the next bunch anyway, in the next 3.
We do know that they're going to be going into hibernation for at least 1 episode.
All right. How do we know that?
They said, it's getting colder. Time to prepare for hibernation.
Oh, okay. I must have missed that both times. I was going to predict that Foss is going to get captured properly.
Go to the moon.
Actually taken to the moon, and that's when we'll see what's happening on the moon and stuff, and then they'll manage to save her somehow. Save him. Or they'll turn Foss into things that they can use. Because they seem to be not only turning them into jewellery, but turning them into weapons that they use to capture the other ones. So it's like a fruitless cycle.
Well, because the Lunarians, apart from the spears, I don't know what the spears are made out of, they're very soft. They get cut in half in one swoop, and you can just destroy them. So they need the harder substance.
We've shown them as arrowheads and also the sapphire that you mentioned, the Venus flytrap sapphire thing. They're turning them into the weapons that they're using to catch the other ones, so it's kind of wasting it.
No idea.
Who knows?
It's all very weird, like, why send out one at a time every 2 days, 3 days? Why not send an army?
Yeah, there's only 28 people there. Just overwhelm them all at once.
Well,
maybe we'll learn why they can't do that. Maybe it's like in a video game like Age of Empires or something, where you can only train up so many because you've only got 1 barracks made. You can only train so many at a time, so once you've got a little squadron, you're like, go and attack them now, and
who knows?
It's all the Lunarians.
Population limit.
Yeah, they've got everyone who comes is actually all the Lunarians there is.
Yeah,
and when they slaughter them, they've got to wait a few more days to breed them again.
They have interesting aesthetic.
Very Buddhist aesthetic.
Yeah, like Buddhist reincarnation. Maybe it's something like that.
To do with the soul. Because they've reached enlightenment.
What's your prediction, Joe?
Did you guys see in the next time bit that there's going to be like a Yeti in the next episode?
No, I didn't see the Yeti.
No, I try not to watch them.
There's like a winter stuff. There was like a Yeti.
I didn't
like
see
a
that
brown
one, so-
yeti, like a regular old Bigfoot, but in the snow.
Huh.
New main character.
Yeah, he's just like, hey, my name is Bigfoot. Check me out.
You can find me in 2 upcoming animation films.
Yeah, I fucking hate crossover shit.
Then 2.
No, just.
The Smallfoot and
The Missing Link.
And also, there's that Yeti movie that just came out, right?
Yeah.
Danny DeVito's in it. Is that The Missing Link?
Oh no, is that another one?
There's a Yeti one that just came out. Bigfoot's he's a hot commodity.
Yeah,
He's making so much money off of licensing.
What is Bigfoot Yeti? Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and Yeti, are they all the same thing?
Yeah, and so is a Yeti.
We've turned into a
and also Yowie.
Cryptozoology podcast.
I just want to make sure that you acknowledge that Yowie is also in that category of big feet.
Yowie.
A Yowie. It's the
Yowie's-
Australian Bigfoot.
I thought
The
Yowie
little
was
swamp.
like gay porn in
No.
Japanese.
Okay, Yowie spelled Yowi.
You impressed with me for remembering that term? All
I
the way
am.
from our UTK episode way back.
Well, I
when.
mean, you're probably well read by now, right?
True. Took me a while to, I was trying to find Yowie porn and it was coming up with Yetis. I was like, what's all this?
Right, getting your wires
It
crossed.
was much harder to jerk it, but non-possible.
I made do.
There was that. This is a big tangent, but there was that American council person. I don't know whether they were a senator or whatever, but they got caught with. They'd written a book called like Bigfoot and Why Women Want Him. So I mean, there's a community who's into Bigfoot,
No,
right?
man,
Like he's a
that's
popular
serious.
guy. What were we talking about?
I'm not sure.
Predictions. I predict that
right.
Bigfoot will be like a guy in a mask, and it's always like he can't talk because the mask is all muffled. And he's like, and they're like, oh my god, it's a monster, and then they hit him with a stick or something, and then they hear a cracking sound, and then they pull the mask off, and it was stuck on with glue, and wouldn't you know, it's one of the ones we haven't met yet.
Yeah.
He's like, I made a Yeti suit. It's like a
Figured it would
Scooby-Doo
save us
episode.
from the Lunarians when they think that we're not gem people anymore. We think we're just big
That's
feet.
so good because they're wandering around looking for these gems, and there's just like a bunch of monkeys down there. Apes.
What are your predictions, guys?
I think the Lunarians they so there's the whole like soul,
Yeah.
and they're coming down trying to capture the bones,
Yeah.
supposedly, and they're
They've got
trying to
the flesh.
capture the flesh. So obviously they're making humans. That's my
You think we're gonna?
crazy wild prediction.
Do you think that we're gonna see a human though? At least
I think we'll see a human,
apart from Sensei.
apart from Sensei.
Yeah.
I think that they haven't got the right people yet. They don't need just any old gems and any old
Right.
squid people. They need like the right one, and so eventually they'll kidnap someone awesome like Dyer or someone like diamonds are the ones everyone goes for. They'll kidnap the diamond, then they'll be successful on making a human, and when they create the human will come out looking a lot like Sensei, and they'll be like the evil twin Sensei, and Sensei.
Oh, that
that's
would
how
be
Sensei
cool.
will have been formed. That's Sensei's backstory. He was the first one that the Lunarians successfully recreated.
I like that.
Boom!
Nice.
I'm
Calling
gloating
it.
about it right now,
Calling
as
it.
if I've got it right.
All right.
Sensei beans.
Oh, Sensei beans. I think it was Foss's legs because her new legs, the agate ones, because I felt super stoked that I got a guess right. B, they look cool because they're all swirly, and C, because she got to run real quick, and that was exciting.
It's dope.
I'm a simple man.
Nice. Let's talking about simple. My favorite bit was the Lunarians coming in the 6th episode. It was just like a shot, and it was just the scale of the things. The giant ass head Lunarian sort of pops in the background through like clouds.
The oily black Rorschach kind of ink splot that they come through.
Yeah. It just looked awesome. I love that scene with the music playing and like the chimes.
Yeah.
It's very airy. It's like welcoming and friendly.
The soundtrack for this whole show, muy bueno, very good.
Yeah.
Very, very good soundtrack.
My favourite bit was the swirly legs, but just favourite bits can't be shared. So my new favourite bit is when they at least draw attention to the fact that they've created a character with big jubbly boobs.
And her favourite things.
And they at least say, yeah, we know. We've given a big juggly boobs that jiggle independent of one another.
Yeah.
And one person has been tasked with
boob
coding
physics.
the CGI for the boob physics underwater. And she's like, yeah, these are my favourite parts.
Offset the keyframes.
Yeah.
That's how you get it done.
Very good.
Sweet.
Let's move on to a Weeb in review.
I know what I am to do now. It's my
A Weeb in review is the segment where we talk about other things that we did in the week that weren't the show that we just talked about. Anime, manga, weeb shit, video games. Robert,
Yeah.
I think you should start.
All right, I will. I was thinking about what to watch this week, something that's different. I was going through my anime list, my recommendations.
My anime list?
My anime list. I was going through that and going, right, what should I do? And then I was like, I've got a few things that I started and haven't finished. I said I was going to get back to Naruto, so I should watch that more before watching something
Deciding if you're actually going to discount it or not.
else. Yeah, and then I watched like 2 more, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this.
Was it anything in particular?
It was just reminding me of a lot of the things that I hated about DBZ. It was like just the fights between them were just long and drawn out and self-indulgent, and they were a little bit inconsistent with like what powers they can do, and it always pissed me off with DBZ, and I found the same with Naruto, that like at one point he gets kicked by like a super ninja.
Big kick,
like Spartan kick, wham, and he flies across and then he's like stands to his feet, and they do that thing where they show the same two frames over and over again, so it looks like he's sort of like jiggling as he's standing up, shaking, and he shakily stands to his feet, and then a couple of moments later he's like fly kicking and stuff and throwing ninja stars and doing like a super...
Yeah, like it's in your will to overcome physical injury.
Physical injury.
Bullshit. Croc of.
And they're fighting like a guy who's just... they did the thing that they always did in DBZ where they overhype the bad guys. Like, this guy's a 1 million power level, and it's like, you should not be able to kill him.
Right.
Definitively. That's it.
Yeah.
But this guy they've just come across was... he was a demon that, when he was Naruto's age, killed 100 other ninja kids without breaking a sweat. And now he's like 20 years older than that, with a lot more experience in killing people, and he's being outmatched by Naruto and his buddy. And I'm like, bullshit. Stop it. Stop it.
Is it because Naruto has friends?
Do you know what? It is because he has friends.
Oh, wow.
Power of friendship is the one thing that bad guys never seem to... If bad guys just made friends with each other, then they could win.
Stronger.
Or the power of love in Voldemort's case.
Yeah.
That was the thing that bested him. Spoiler alert. Sorry. It just got a bit like, okay. And it was a shame as well, because episode 7, I was like, that was quite a cool way that they did the fight, because I thought it had ended. And then they continued it on in episode 8. Because they ended episode 7 in a way that I kind of like in fighting, in that the Naruto's sensei was with them, and he's super powerful, and we don't know quite how powerful he is until this like demon ninja arrives. Yeah. And he goes, Takeshi, or whatever his name is, I've been meaning to fight with you. You're the most powerful guy, and blah, 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 and you've been known for all of this. And he starts to go through like the backstory of this guy. And Naruto's going, Sensei, are you really that powerful? And then he lifts up the eye patch that he's been wearing, and he shows like a little red eye that's got superpowers or whatever.
Somebody's listening right now having an aneurysm.
I know.
It's called, and I don't know what it's called because I never got into Naruto, but
it was quite fun. I really enjoyed that scene in that episode in general. I was like, this is cool. He's got all sorts of ninja powers in his magic eye. And they sort of stare each other down, and the guy goes, I need to kill that old man that's behind you, but it seems like I'm going to have to defeat you first. And they just like stare at each other, and they're waiting, and then he starts to fight, and then it's over within a very brief time, because they're so powerful that they've kind of already done the fight in their heads, and they've worked out what's happening. So the actual fighting is over very briefly, and I like that. There was a similar scene that was quite well known in I think it's Rebels, the Star Wars animated series, where Darth Maul and Obi-Wan Kenobi have a showdown, and there's a lot of talking.
I'm sorry, who? Darth Maul?
Yeah.
Spiky-haired man.
Yeah.
Who dies in the Phantom.
He gets chopped in half laterally. He gets bionic legs in the Rebels.
But he also falls down the black hole?
Yeah. Comes back, as they do.
Where does that hole go?
I don't know. Garbage chute or something.
Luke Skywalker
The
found
cleaners
it.
find him. The cleaners find him in a bin, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
That always fucked me off. It's like it's endemic of the whole like prequel trilogy.
Oh, if you can't see the light at the bottom of the hole.
Not just that, but like what are they doing? Like what is that place? Like what hallway has just like
Yeah, what are they using it for?
yeah, what the fuck? Stupid fuck.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Sit through. But no, there's a scene in the Rebels TV series that's animated, so it's, I suppose, a little bit relevant.
Yeah.
Where Darth Maul and Obi-Wan are having a very tense conversation about how it's going to go down, and then the actual fight is like that. It's showing like them. He takes a little step to the side, and the other one sees it and readjusts his positioning and stuff. So they're doing all the preparatory stuff first, and that's where the tension is. And then they rush in and strike, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And then you see which one gets chopped in half, and that's the one who lost. I quite like that sort of thing. And it did it like that, and I was like, oh, sweet. The main sensei gets a knife to the other guy's throat and says, don't move, I win, it's over. And then episode 8 starts with him going, but I'm actually an illusion, and he disappears, and then he appears behind the sensei, and he attacks him, but then the sensei himself had considered that, and he was water as well, and so he was behind that guy, and then that guy was again water. It was a 3-way double bluff thing, and I'm like, oh, this is fucking bullshit. This is the type of shit.
I'm getting frustrated listening to you.
So yeah, Naruto's
You
over.
can't write that stuff.
They don't write that stuff. It felt like they came up with it when they were like, we need another episode.
Yeah.
Very popular
anyway,
TV series.
Yeah, so I won't be pursuing that anymore. It's not for me. Another
one bites the dust.
I have been reading more of The Promised Neverland, several more chapters of that. We're now escaped, and this is where Joel said that it started to go a bit downhill for him.
What are your thoughts on
that? I haven't considered that it's really downhill yet. It's still new enough in the outside world that it's keeping me hooked, and I think it's okay.
We spoiled the ever-loving shit out of the escape arc, so I don't know. I think we shouldn't spoil how they escaped that, but how you? So it's still new enough that you're liking it. How are you? Because you were starting. You mentioned we talked a little bit off mic about the unbelievability of like 4-year-olds being.
That's still a pain in the ass, but it's a gimme at this stage. It's something that that's not going to change because that's the setup of this whole show. So I've just got to accept it.
But that's an interesting conceit because we just talked about how we're not willing to give up the fact that these guys did like triple water bluffs in Naruto.
Yeah, but that's a different thing. So the different distinction is this is the setup of the people. This is an argument I always have when people are like, you can't talk about the believability of that particular fight in Lord of the Rings because elves don't exist. I'm like, no, because the setup of the world. The setup, the gimme of the world is that this is the situation. Elves exist and all of this. Now, once you've set up the world, stick to that. Be consistent to that. Now, in this show, I've started to think about it as it's just a show where the manga. In this manga, I've started to think about it like it's just a world where kids have evolved to be super intelligent. Maybe it's set way in the future or whatever. You know, I've sort of adjusted it to be like that's a gimme of the show. Yeah. These kids happen to,
and it is consistent. Smart. They're all very smart,
and they're just consistently smart. They're consistent with the rules that they've set up. They set up at the beginning that they're super smart. It pisses me off to begin with, but then once they've set up, they're consistent with it, so I can let it go.
I agree with you, by the way. I just felt like we should justify why we're being picky about shonen fights in particular, but we're letting very brainy little kids get the bye-bye.
Yeah.
Anything else to add about Promised Neverland at the moment?
Nothing that's not like spoilery, so I'll talk about it again once I've read some more of it, I guess.
Well, with that, I will take over, and I have a couple of things to talk about. And you know what? I think this is a shonen episode because I have I finally finished Boku no Hero Academia Season 3. I know that I'm quite a bit behind, but I caught up. I let it run for a little bit, and then I caught up, and then I let it run to the season's completion, and then I quickly watched all the episodes again because it's a fun show to binge, and I forget week to week. I'm doing other stuff.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to point out about My Hero Academia and why it's better than Dragon Ball Z and its contemporaries, its ancestors, the shows that came before it. There was a part in the end of Season 3, or towards the end, so we've got the two character archetypes. We've got the protagonist, the shonen protagonist, Deku, and the forever rival Bakugo, which would be, Sasuke and Naruto in Naruto, and Goku and Vegeta in Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
The plucky, I'm just the goodest guy ever, and I'm just gonna do good stuff, and the, I don't need power friendship, I'm strong, because I'm strong.
Ash and Gary in
Pokemon, that whole thing.
Great.
So the main protagonist, of course, always wins again, or for the most part, always wins and consistently outperforms the forever rival, fueling the rivalry. And it actually brought it to the forefront. The rival breaks down, he challenges the protagonist to a one-on-one fight. They haven't fought one-on-one essentially since the series has started. And he confronts him about it, and he's like, You used to be worse than me. What is happening? We both have the same idol. We both have the same goal. Are you telling me that I'm doing this wrong? I was stronger than you because they've known each other since they were kids. And he has this, emotional, existential breakdown where he's like, fuck, I'm doing this so bad right now, and I can't deal with all this guilt that I have, and, there are parts of my personality that I'm having to come to terms with because they're clearly having a negative impact on my improvement. And it was very satisfying. And then they punched each other in the face, and it was good. It wasn't a really long fight. It was just an episode, but it was them. Deku really doesn't want to fight him because he's like, this guy's really upset right now. Yeah. But he's like, right, he just needs to let off some steam. So they just end up slugging it out. It was a really, really good episode. I've not gone into too much of the context around it, but seeing that archetype actually confronting what's wrong with him, because Vegeta never does. Vegeta's just like, man, I'm sad that I'm not as strong as Goku. Man, I have a chip on my shoulder. But he doesn't ever improve. I know that he, eventually he gets a wife and he kind of settles down. But I guess,
always begrudgingly.
Yeah, it's always like, fuck, I guess I'll do this. And I guess you could say, but he's just not the kind of guy to talk about it. It's like, well, maybe he should be. Maybe then he would be as strong as Goku. I don't know. I really got a lot out of people. The one person at work who also watches My Hero Academia complained about the end of the season being kind of lackluster. It's just because it doesn't end on a climax. The climax was in the middle of the season, and this has just been, the second half is kind of just more setting up what's going to be happening in the next season. Because it's a long, we're up to episode 64 now, and almost nothing has happened. It's all been character development. It's a class of 24 students, but I have a good read on what they're all like, and what their goals are like, and their improvement, and their development over time. And so it's a satisfying watch.
Right.
But the best, that was the third to last episode, was the fight between Midoriya and Bakugo. And I thought that was the climax of the season. So that was good. On a similar train of thought, I've watched a little bit more of Yu Yu Hakusho. I mentioned that I started watching it a very many episodes ago. It's a show that started coming out in the mid-90s, early 90s, saying around about this, a little bit after Dragon Ball Z. And I have heard people say that it is the best example of shonen from that time period. I've only seen just over 20 episodes, which is not heaps because there's 100 episodes. But, I was watching it and I was like, I can see why people point to this as being a good example of it. And speaking to what Robert was just saying about fights that just fucking drag on and are inconsistent, fights, for the most part, are wrapped up in one episode.
Right.
And they're resolved by outsmarting an opponent, not necessarily... But sometimes it's that actually just didn't affect me in the way that you thought it would.
Right.
There's a guy who can control ice, and there's a guy who's really quick.
Yeah.
And
he thinks it'll slow him down.
He ices the guy's leg so that he can't use it. And so he's hopping around on one leg, and then he ices both of his legs, and he's like, now you're fucked. And then he gets him close to him, and he's like, actually, smash, didn't work. And then he cuts him.
Yeah.
There was one guy who they literally exploded, and then he was just alive in a different room. And then they chucked him into lava, and then he was alive again. But
Is that his power? Like,
he was just hard to kill, I guess. That one, that was kind of fun because he didn't really have anything else that was.
Is it sort of like a mutant situation or?
So it's. I mentioned that it's about like a guy who dies, and then when he comes back to life, he gets told by the Grim Reaper. Well, he dies, and then his ghost gets told by the Grim Reaper that he is now going to be a spirit detective.
Right.
So he's investigating demons who are possessing people and running amok, and ghosts and ghouls and goblins and all the rest of that kind of...
Was this the one where he saved a kid?
Yeah,
Turned out to not be important anyway because the kid wasn't going to die.
Yeah. So the other world has seen potential in him, and he has to investigate, like, mysteries that will affect the outcome of humanity. For example, there's... a very, very old psychic who is about to die and wants to make sure that somebody knows their psychic techniques. And by psychic, they don't mean like, I can read your mind, or if they do, they mean I can literally read your mind. So they say, I will teach anybody who can win in this tournament that I'm going to hold. And so he has to go and participate in the tournament, not so that he can get the power, but because they've heard that there is like a serial killer who is in the mix of the crowd, and he has to try and figure out who the serial killer is and stop them from getting the power because they'll use it to kill more people. And even when he fights that guy, he's like, he's been around for so long, he's killed 99 other psychics, which speaks to, again, this guy who, when he was Naruto's age, did this kind of stuff. The main character is still a kid, but he wins through ignorance of how things should work. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's one part where he's fighting this psychic who's killed 99 other psychics, or a demon, or whatever the fuck he is. And they're fighting in, like, marshland, and the demon is preparing this attack, and he's charging it, it's glowing really bright, and then the Housekei is just running towards him as fast as he can, and then he disappears, and he can't quite see what happened because it's so bright, and then he has to let go of the shot, and he misses, and Housekei just fell into a hole. He's just unobservant of his surroundings.
That's cool.
And they've established earlier on that the bad guy knows a spell. He has to recite the whole spell, but if he casts it successfully, then the person gets shrunk down to like the size of a Smurf.
Right.
And he knocks out Housekei, and he's like, I'm going to make you suffer. So he spends 5 minutes or whatever the fuck chanting this spell, and then he gets shrunk small. And he's like, what? Why am I so small? And then the old lady psychic who's holding the tournament is like, you idiot. If the person who you're casting the spell on has to hear the spell, otherwise, because the way that it works is that your brain hears the command, and because it's like Eldritch, essentially, it rewires your brain to rearrange your molecules, which I mean, like, I understand what you're trying to say there. And he's like, what? If I didn't even understand how that works, how would he understand it? And then Yusuke's like, wakes up from being unconscious, which, I mean, you shouldn't be able to hear if you're unconscious anyway, but he wakes up from being unconscious, and then he's like, and he pulls moss out of his ear that he got from falling in the hole.
Right.
So it's, like, tongue-in-cheek and fits within the established laws of the world. It's just consistent, and it's good. And the villains are James... There's one super villain that keeps Housekei alive for too long, but he's a James Bond villain, essentially. He's like, watch as... he's got, like, Yusuke's loved ones up on a TV screen, and they're being chased by monsters. No, you'll have to watch him suffer as your family dies. And Yusuke's whole thing is that his spirit power grows exponentially the closer he is to death. He's still incredibly weak. Like, at the end of the fight, he can't even stand. He's crawling, and he stays crawling. He stays down. So there's that as well. But it means that if he ever does get knocked down to the point where he's barely conscious, he can do a very powerful attack.
Right.
I'm just enjoying it. It's good. It's consistent. It's a fun little thing to do while I'm drawing. It's just to have that on and kind of absorb that at the same time. Can see why people like it, which is strange because I have also seen some of the writer of Yu Yu Hakusho ended that very quickly because he didn't know what to do with it anymore, so he was just like, it's finished. They won. Game over. I mean, you win. And he moved into a new series called Hunter. It's called Hunter x Hunter, but it's written Hunter x Hunter. Yeah.
I've heard of it.
I've seen 30 episodes of that, and my god. it's consistent, but the exposition is just fucked. It's like 10.
Consistently
It's just. It's supposed to be a really complex power system. It's not really that complex,
Right.
but they spend like entire episodes explaining exactly
Right.
how it works. Like, you first of all, every single creature has spirit energy called nen, and then you have to distill your nen into zen, and then that, and if once you can do this, then you can make it into den, and that can be manipulated into any number of different ways. Which is why this guy's a spinning top person, and this person can create copies of himself, and. The amount of exposition is frustrating. I enjoyed Hunter x Hunter, but not as much as I'm enjoying Yu Yu Hakusho.
Would it have been unwatchable if they'd just not done any of the exposition and just tried to go into the story?
No, I don't think so. I think that okay.
You wouldn't have been left too much like, what the hell is happening?
No, I think it would have been. I would have just been say it would have been a given that there is like a magic in the world that everybody can manipulate differently. And that's all it really is.
Yeah.
Is everybody has untapped spiritual potential that they can't see. If you train really hard, then you can harness it and manipulate it, and people can manipulate it an infinite number of ways. Like one guy uses it to create a perpetual motion on spinning tops, and he fights with spinning tops, and one person can create an identical copy of himself, but that's the only thing he can do is just so that he can take on people.
Yeah.
Do you like magic in shows?
I like hard magic systems. Soft magic systems, like in The Lord of the Rings, I don't like, because it's just like, and then the crows come.
So that's like unexplained?
It's poorly explained. Is a lot of the time with soft magic systems, even the people who are using it don't understand how it works.
Okay.
And it's just like
innate.
Well, not necessarily, because there's a difference between innate magic and soft magic. Soft magic means that the rules are not clearly defined, and so there's no consistency to how anything works.
Yeah.
Like in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf's magic is just whatever the fuck he wants it to be at the time, and there's no like materials used or like incantation that he has to say. He just like stamps his wand down and it does the thing he wants.
A whole different group of people are like, a fucking wand? What?
a staff. And then you have something that's a little bit harder, like Harry Potter, where there are some rules, but they also just break them because they feel like it, which is just...
You need a wand, except when you don't. You need to say an incantation,
except when you don't. So fuck Harry Potter. And then you have harder magic systems like Avatar The Last Airbender, where you have to, like... There's an understood rules to how it works, right? Even if it's like, that isn't how it works in real life. Like, you do Tai Chi to bend water, like, the understanding is still, if you do this hand motion and you understand, like, you can
learn these techniques.
Yeah, and then it follows a consistent pathway. And, like, developments and power-ups from that system make sense. For example, Toph is an earthbender, and she develops metal bending because metal is just a more refined version of earth.
Yeah.
It's an understandable progression. Understandable isn't the right word.
It has some like logic.
Yeah, it's a logical progression of power. And then you have really hard magic systems, which are also kind of not that hard, I guess. Like in Full Metal Alchemist, where you can only make something if you have the materials required to make it, and you can draw the diagram that constitutes the thing that you want to happen.
Yeah.
So does it feel like this one was trying to be like a really hard... all the exposition was them setting out strict rules for how it works?
From what I understand, he just continues to do these exposition dumps with like, the reason that the nen can work in this way is because he's doing it like this.
Right. So it's just changing the rules and having to explain it, why it's changing.
Yeah, whereas I feel like you don't have to tell me every single time. Like, I get it now.
Right.
I feel like I get it. But also, we're talking about Hunter x Hunter now. There's this little kid, and he's 12, and he's the main character, and that's fine. You can be the main character and be 12. They go to this, they've got like 6 months to kill for a reason that doesn't matter, and his friend Killua is like, his name's Killua, like Killua. He's like, I know somewhere that we can go, and they go to this, I think it's just called Fight Tower. It's 200 stories tall, and every single floor is like a fighting tournament, and the higher up you go, or the higher up you win, the more money you get until you get like to the last 50 floors. And once you get to the, like, forget everything below that because it doesn't really matter. But once you get to the top 50 floors, you have a permanent residency. You only have to fight once a month because every other time it's just like you get rostered on and you have to fight, you have to keep going. You only have to fight once, might even be less, it might be once every 3 months or something. The terms of how often you have to fight change. You get to live in the tower for free, and you get a stipend, because people come to see you fight.
Right.
People work their whole lives to try and get up to, like, you know, X floor. And in a space of, like, a week, they go from floor 0 to floor, like, 175 or something ridiculous. Like, they get to floor 200 very, very quickly. Yeah. And that's when at floor 200, they start using Nen, which is when they have to do the exposition of what all that shit is. But he's still 12. Like, I don't care how hard you are. Like, and it's supposed to be like, but all the real hard people are at floor 200, and he does start losing fights at 200. But he literally wins uncontested for 200 floors. And depending on how quickly you win, like he doesn't have to do 200 fights, you know, like, I think he goes straight from floor 0 to floor 50 because he kills a guy. Yeah, he there's like this big sumo wrestler who's like, 12-year-old, this is going to be an easy fight. And he just punches him so hard that he, like, flies out of the ring, hits the wall, and just, like, breaks his neck and dies.
Jeez.
I don't think he dies, but... So, I don't know. It's just he's 12. There should be adults who are like, hey, kid, I promise I'll go easy on you, and then they just snap his neck or something. Like, they cut his leg off, because you can take weapons in as well. It's just,
right. Shit.
So... That was when Hunter x Hunter started to really annoy me, because everything before that I was kind of on board with, but then it was just like, hey, check me out. Can do whatever we want. Power levels don't mean anything.
But this was the same mangaka?
Yeah, the same mangaka. I know that
much better job, you reckon?
Well, okay. I've only read about a third, or seen about a third of each. I will, before I compare both bodies of work, I would like to complete them both. But the issue with Hunter x Hunter is that the show has 114 episodes, and the manga, I think he just released a couple of new chapters, but he went on like a 3 or 4 year hiatus.
Wow.
And when you go from writing week to week to a 4 year hiatus, there's a lot of like content that is just non-existent, or time that's been not spent. It's kind of like Berserk. At least we know what fucking Miura does when he takes his time off. We have no idea what the guy who does Hunter x Hunter does. Miura just plays idle games and rhythm games. Straight, like, no, legitimately. Yeah. I remember I finally caught up to Berserk like a couple months ago. Yeah. And I was like checking up to try and find out what the production schedule is like. Is it month to month? Is it week to week? And somebody was like, there's like, what is it? I think it's called Love Idol. Somebody was like, there's a new Love Idol game coming out. He won't be making another chapter for like at least 4 months. I was like, wow. Is this a joke? Everybody was like, no, seriously.
Wow.
Seriously. Yeah, and he does. He just fucks off. He just goes and plays an idle game for 4 months. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. I guess you can do that if you're that popular.
Yeah, no. Yeah, for sure.
What you want.
So that's my Shonen week for this week.
Nice.
Fake views.
So, Fake Views is a segment where I come up with 3 synopses to anime. They could be real or they could be made up. And then my co-hosts have to guess if they're real or fake. And then if they get them wrong, I get to laugh at them because I'm the anime noob and they should know more than me. You ready?
I did very bad last week, so I'm here to redeem myself.
You got 1 out of 3, but you still won.
And the problem
was swept over me.
Yeah. The issue was I was like, surely there can't be 3 fakes 2 weeks in a row. That's statistically improbable, but I need to not do that. I need to
not do that. The purpose of me like choosing whether they're real or fake with a random number generator.
It's not partial random. It's true
random. Can't metagame it, and he still tried. All right. So first one. In the near future, virtual reality is incredibly popular, with people having virtual pets, superpowers, and all sorts of things. However, mysterious blob-like computer viruses start to infect everything, and people who look too closely into them get killed. It's up to the main character and the Cyber Investigation Agency to uncover the truth.
That sounds like 3 things that I know of, but combined. When you say virtual reality is really popular, people have superpowers? You mean in virtual reality?
Yeah.
Okay.
Virtual reality superpowers and such.
Oh, so they're killed in real life?
They're killed in real life if they start to look into where these viruses are coming from.
Okay.
The viruses are only infecting the virtual pets. And
Yeah. That sounds so similar to at least 3 IPs that I can think of. I'll list them off afterwards, so I'm just going to go fake. But I could definitely see why it would be a real show. Fake.
I'm gonna say fake, not because it sounds familiar at all. I know there's been anime with like cyber worlds and digital game worlds and things like that. I haven't heard of a VR one.
You haven't heard of a VR one?
No, but I'm sure there's tons.
There are.
Yeah.
Well,
Sword
you
Art
have
Online.
now. It is real.
Here we go.
It is called Denu Coil, and it's a sci-fi thriller from 2007.
2007.
Yeah, they have virtual reality goggles and people.
Nice.
My knowledge is like after that. The core of my knowledge, which is bad.
Good to know.
What's its rating?
I didn't put down its rating.
Okay, good.
But you can look it up. Denu Coil. DENNOU Coil. COIL. Number 2. See if I can sweep you this week.
Oh, wait, really quickly. The IPs that I thought it sounded like were Sword Art Online, Transistor, and a little tiny bit of Psychopaths, but I don't know why. Anyways, moving on.
Number 2. A little boy lives happily in the rainforest until he befriends a mysterious girl who isn't quite as she seems and has strange effects on those around her.
Yeah. Strange effects. I won't ask what they are.
People start to act differently around her.
Real.
Fake.
Your reasonings?
It sounds real.
Just sounds real. Just sounds fake.
Yeah. I don't have strong opinions.
It sounds. All I'm doing, my grasp of it
process?
is just going like Western or Eastern sounding.
Yeah.
Too Western for me. Too.
This is real. It's called Jungle wa itsumo hare nochi gu. And I didn't write down the English translation, but it was something like the jungle is always sunny until Goo came or something.
Okay.
And Goo is the logo. It's a comedy. It's surreal, and it was from 1997.
Ooh.
The little boy lives with his mum in the jungle, and then a little girl turns up, and she's like some sort of alien or something.
Yeah, probably. That sounds very anime.
I did watch the first episode of that, but I obviously couldn't talk about it in Weeb and Review.
Oh.
I didn't. I got the gist of it. It was in Spanish, but I got the gist.
Why did you... Wait,
It
what?
was crazy and surreal.
Why did you watch the first episode in Spanish?
But it was the first one that I could find. I wanted to see what sort of thing it was because I didn't have much of a synopsis for it.
Did you skim it, or...?
I just watched it. It was on while I was doing other things, writing the other synopses and stuff, and I was like watching to see what kind of show it was. All right, so that's 2 reels. The third one. While visiting her father's lab, the main character gets possessed by 2 mysterious beings. One is young and dormant, but the other takes over her entirely, fusing into her being. As she grows, she makes a partnership with the other one, using her new powers to evade those who wish to experiment on her.
Fuck, that sounds real. Wait. One is young and dormant.
Yeah.
And the other is old
Yeah.
and takes over her body.
over her. And then the 2 of them make sort of a partnership within her body.
That sounds real as fuck.
Is it real as an anime, or is it a real story that I've taken from?
Yeah,
a book
no, I
or a
don't.
TV
It
show
sounds.
or
It sounds like. I think that sounds like it could be an anime. So I'm saying real. And if I'm wrong, I have egg on my face.
I'm saying fake because I think you've done a thing here where you've made it sound like anime.
Don't metagame it.
Curtis, that's 0 out of 3, I'm afraid.
Yes.
Joel's got a 2 out of 3 this time.
3-1-2.
This one is called Kurao Phantom Memory. It's a sci-fi action from 2003. So earlier today, I messaged Joel saying, "What's your my anime list name?" And he's like, "Oh, it's this. Why?" And I was like, just wanted to look for inspiration for Weeb and Review. I was actually looking to see if you'd watched any of these.
Very good idea. That's a good idea.
I was checking to see if it was on your recommended to watch or anything.
That's a good idea because I could
halfway through the synopsis, it's like, oh, that's Daniel Coyle.
Like, no.
Well, I wouldn't because there's no collusion allowed. But that's a good idea. I could get away with it with you guys because you guys have seen next to nothing. But when you get to about 100, it starts to be a bit muddier.
Well done, Joel. Here's your belt. You get to keep it from last week.
Yeah. Last week was a fluke.
How did you guys go at home? Did you get all 3? Let us know. And you've beaten Joel the sensei, if you have.
You almost definitely have. Let's move on into the wrap up. Wet and slimy, but I'm not grimy. I'm a snail person, here to eat ya. Sensei, you're a hunk. Gonna eat that dick and put it in my mouth. My new mixtape is coming out in 2020.
I would have gone, Sensei, you're a hunk. I'm gonna eat that dick and swallow your spunk.
Oh.
So then it rhymes with hunk.
Yeah, but you were clearly wrapping up the beat, so I had to stop it.
Sorry, man. That's
clearly all your fault.
It's on the beat.
I learned that raps can be sexual.
Yeah.
So I tried to channel that.
Nice.
Next week, we'll be watching episodes 7, 8, and 9 of Housekei no Kuni. Watch along with us. Let us know whether you're enjoying it or not. Curtis, where can people get in touch?
Google.
Plus, Google Plus. Yeah,
that'll work.
Yeah.
Google Kif Kayak and you'll find us all.
Yeah.
You could email us directly at kyfcayac@gmail.com. That's kifkayak@gmail.com. You could tell a friend about us. That'd help us out, help us grow.
You can hit the review button and leave us a 5 schmeckle rating and tell us what a good or bad job we're doing. But the most important part is that you do leave the 5 stars.
Yeah. Recommendations.
Yeah, regardless of whether you liked it or hated it, just leave the 5 stars and then give your opinion and it'll be fine.
Think of our negative scoring system. You're giving us -5 because we're so bad.
Exactly, and we just need to know. But yeah, until next week, I have been your anime prophet, Joel.
I was your anime devout worshipper, Robert.
I was your anime sheep, Curtis.